A Rupee Goes a Long Way is one of the best stories written by Ruskin Bond. It's a tale about a boy who experiences different flavors of life and learns lessons that would go along him throughout his life. This is an explanation taken from Gulmohar English textbook for class 5. Let's first talk about the main characters in this lesson. Okay, so the main characters in this lesson are Ranji, the flute player, the sweet seller, Mohinder, who is Ranji's friend, and the truck driver. Ranji is a boy who has an old 1 rupee coin, and he is trying his means to make use of this old 1 rupee coin, right? So Ranji was very hopeful that he would have some sweet jalebis from the sweet shop with that old 1 rupee coin that he had. So he goes to the sweet shop and he asks the sweet seller to give him some jalebis for rupees for 1 rupee. However, does the sweet seller value his coin? Well, the answer is no. The sweet seller doesn't value his coin and he says that this coin is too old and is of no use. So he asks Ranji to come back with another coin. Now, where does Ranji go after that? After the sweet seller denies to give him the jalebis. Ranji was disheartened. So he takes the old 1 rupee coin along with him and he starts to walk through some mango trees. Now it was very, very hot. It was a very hot, sunny day, and he could hear someone playing a flute from a distance. When he goes closer, he sees that there's a boy just of his age who was playing a flute under a tree. He finds the sound of the flute very soothing. He could also see different kinds of birds who were getting attracted to the flute players in the music, to the sound of that flute. And he wished that he could also play the flute just for once. He starts talking to the flute player, and then he discovers that the flute player was also interested in his fishing rod. So Ranji was holding a fishing rod in his hand. The flute player and Ranji decide to trade. They exchange their fishing rod and the flute with each other. So Ranji takes the fish rod and the flute player takes the fishing rod and he walks away. Ranji takes the flute and the flute player takes the fishing rod and walks away. Whom does Ranji meet after that? So after he had the fishing rod, Ranji walks to the clock tower where the bazaar starts and he finds a corner, sits there and he starts to play the flute. As soon as he starts playing the flute, people in the market startle. Startle means they were feeling, it's a startle means a feeling of or showing a sudden shock or alarm, a feeling of shock, sudden shock or alarm. So it was very evident that Ranji did not know how to play a flute, and it was only noise which was coming out from his flute when he tried to play it. I can play better than that. Now, who is this speaker? Someone approaches Ranji, and it looks like he knows Ranji a lot better, right? And he says, I can play better than that. So the speaker was Mohinder. He was Ranji's friend. And Mohinder had a fishing rod on his shoulder, and he also was walking towards him. And it looked like he was going somewhere. So Ranji asks him where he is going. And Mohinder says that I'm not going anywhere. I have been in some place and I have been there since morning. So he was near the canal trying to fish, right? As soon as he uttered fishing, Ranji also gets excited and now he wants to fish. But he realizes that he doesn't have his fishing rod. So he asks Mohinder if he could borrow his fishing rod for for a day. But Mohinder insists and he doesn't want to lend the fishing rod to Ranji because he was afraid he would break it or damage it. However, Mohinder had another option to offer to Ranji. He asks him to buy the fishing rod for 2 rupees. But unfortunately, Ranji only had an old 1 rupee coin. So he tells Mohinder about the same thing, that I only have one old rupee coin, and that too is not good enough. The sweet seller was not ready to accept this coin. However, Mohinder didn't have a problem with that. He said that his uncle collected old coins. And he said if he would give that coin, if he gets that coin, he would give it to his uncle. When he heard this, Ranji didn't think twice and he just gave the coin, the old 1 rupee coin that he had, to Mohinder. Mohinder takes the coin and walks away. Now, Ranji is again left with a fishing rod. His 1 rupee coin is now gone. However, he is very excited to go to the riverside. But since the riverside was quite far, he had to take a lift. He sees the truck driver on the way and he requests him to drop him by the riverside. Since he knew the truck driver well, the truck driver stopped the truck for him and allowed him to sit at the back. So he asks Ranji to climb on the truck and he takes him to the riverside. As soon as he reaches the riverside, he realizes that there was hardly any water in the river. Since it was a dry season, there was no water, and because it was a dry season, the river was so shallow, you can imagine he could not see any fish in that river. There was no fish at all. There was no water to fish the smallest of fish. And at that instant, Ranji realized why Mohinder traded his fishing rod for a 1 rupee coin. And Ranji now realizes that how he could have kept the old 1 rupee coin. Maybe he could have used it to buy some other thing other than the sweet, right? At least the old 1 rupee coin could have been more valuable than the fishing rod now. Since it's a dry season, this fishing rod was useless for him. So now he has 2 useless things with him. One is the flute, which he cannot play, and the other one is the fishing rod, which is of no use since it's dry season, there's no water in the river, and hence there won't be any fish. So this is all about the story. Now, what do you think could be the message that we understand from the story? Well, if you could see, somebody great had told that grass looks green on the other side always, right? We think that grass is green on the other side. Ranji desired things which were not meant for him. When he saw the flute, when he saw the boy playing the flute, he thought it would be so easy for him as well to play the flute. And without thinking twice, he traded his fishing rod for the flute. He could have kept his fishing rod. And then he realized that now, since he doesn't have the fishing rod, but he had at least that coin. But he traded that coin as well. For what? For a thing which he already had. He already had a fishing rod. He took it for a flute which was of no use. And now again he takes another wrong decision of giving the coin that he had to his friend instead to replace it with a fishing rod. And later only to realize that that fishing rod was also useless because there was no fish to do fishing. Another moral of the story could be a signal to humanity that how rivers are drying because of global warming, and how very soon there'll be a day when there will be no fishes to catch, and the fishermen will be forced to look for another occupation. All the fishing rods will be useless. All the fishing nets will make no meaning, as there won't be any river, and without rivers, there won't be any fish either. Well, so that's about today's lesson. I have included a worksheet. You can try to solve that very simple worksheet just to measure your understanding if you have understood the story very well. It's a very simple worksheet with only 10 questions. You will find the link of this live worksheet in the description box. If you have liked my explanation, consider subscribing my channel.